The little girl dropped her spoon, and the quiet clatter against the cafe floor seemed louder than the entire room. Her father immediately knelt beside her, wiping her cheeks with a napkin as if her tears mattered more than the dozen tables waiting for service. Across the room, a woman worth billions watched the moment unfold, and something inside her heart shifted in a way she never expected. In that single, ordinary moment of kindness, the richest woman in the city saw something money had never given her: love, patience, and a quiet strength that could not be bought. Before we continue this emotional journey, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Whisper Tales 3 if you believe kindness and second chances can truly change someone's life. It was a bright late morning in the bustling city cafe where sunlight poured through the tall glass windows and painted the wooden floors in warm golden shades. The cafe was simple, far from luxurious, but it carried a welcoming charm that regular customers loved. Behind the counter moved a tired but determined man named Arman, a waiter who worked every shift he could take. His uniform was always perfectly clean despite the long hours, and his smile never faded even when exhaustion shadowed his eyes. Life had not been kind to Arman. 2 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him alone to raise their 5-year-old daughter, Nara. Since then, every morning began the same way. Arman would wake before sunrise, prepare breakfast for Nara, braid her messy little ponytail as best he could, and walk her to the small daycare near the cafe before starting his shift. Every dollar he earned went toward rent, food, and the small dream that one day his daughter would have a better life than the one he struggled to hold together. Customers often noticed how gentle Arman was with Nara when she visited the cafe after daycare. She would sit quietly in the corner booth drawing pictures while Arman rushed between tables carrying trays. When she felt lonely, he would steal a quick moment to kneel beside her, whisper something that made her smile again, then return to work as if nothing had happened. On that particular morning, a sleek black car stopped outside the cafe. The woman who stepped out was Seraphina Vale, a billionaire technology investor known across the country for her powerful business decisions and her icy reputation. Newspapers described her as brilliant but distant, someone who had built an empire yet lived behind walls few people ever crossed. Seraphina had not planned to enter the small cafe. Her driver had stopped because she wanted a quick coffee before a meeting nearby. But the moment she stepped inside, the scene that greeted her caught her attention. Arman was kneeling beside Nara, gently brushing crumbs from her dress after she accidentally spilled her oatmeal. Instead of scolding her, he smiled softly, as if the tiny accident was the most normal thing in the world. Seraphina stood silently for a moment longer than she intended. In boardrooms she commanded hundreds of employees without hesitation, but something about that simple fatherly patience felt unfamiliar. Her own childhood had been filled with cold tutors and distant caretakers while her wealthy parents chased success. Arman soon noticed the elegantly dressed woman waiting and hurried over to take her order. He treated her exactly the same as every other customer, with calm respect and genuine kindness. There was no nervousness about her expensive watch or designer coat. To him she was simply another guest who deserved good service. As Seraphina sat by the window sipping her coffee, she watched the rhythm of Arman's day unfold. He carried heavy trays, wiped tables, laughed with elderly regulars, and checked on Nara whenever she looked restless. There was something deeply human in the way he moved through the chaos of the cafe, something sincere that the polished world of billion-dollar meetings often lacked. For reasons she could not explain, Seraphina began returning to the cafe almost every morning that week. At first she told herself it was simply because the coffee tasted better there, but the truth slowly became impossible to ignore. She came because watching Arman reminded her that warmth still existed in the world. Over time she learned small details about his life without asking directly. The cafe owner once mentioned how Arman never missed a shift even when he looked exhausted. A regular customer quietly told Seraphina how the young father often skipped his own lunch so Nara could have an extra snack. One afternoon, as daylight filled the cafe and customers slowly drifted away, Nara ran toward the counter holding a crayon drawing. She proudly showed it to Arman, who studied the colorful picture with exaggerated seriousness before lifting her into a brief hug. The drawing showed a small stick-figure family under a bright yellow sun, just a father and a daughter. Seraphina felt an unexpected tightness in her chest as she watched. Despite her wealth, despite the skyscrapers her investments had built, she suddenly realized how empty her own life felt compared to that tiny drawing. Days turned into weeks. Seraphina and Arman began sharing simple conversations whenever the café grew quiet. She discovered he once dreamed of becoming a teacher before life forced him to abandon his studies to support his family. Arman learned that Seraphina carried enormous responsibilities that rarely left space for genuine connection. Neither of them planned for their worlds to overlap, yet slowly something rare began to grow. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was built in small daytime moments, shared smiles, quiet talks near the coffee machine, and Nara's cheerful waves whenever Seraphina arrived. But the greatest surprise came one morning when Seraphina noticed Arman studying paperwork during his break. It was a rejection letter from a community college where he had tried to reapply for night classes. Tuition was simply too expensive for a waiter's salary. Seraphina did not say anything at first, but the sight stayed in her mind long after she left the café. A week later, Arman received an unexpected letter from the same college informing him that a new scholarship program had just been created for single parents returning to education. The scholarship covered everything: tuition, books, and even daycare support. Arman was speechless when he read it. What he didn't know was that the program had been quietly funded by Seraphina the night she saw that rejection letter. Months passed, and life slowly changed. Arman began attending evening classes while still working during the day. Nara proudly told everyone her father was becoming a teacher. The café customers celebrated his small victories as if they were their own. And through it all, Seraphina remained nearby, watching the transformation she had helped spark, not with pride, but with quiet happiness. Because for the first time in her life, the billionaire realized that love did not come from power or wealth. It came from compassion, from believing in someone when they were still struggling to believe in themselves. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your support helps stories like this reach more people who still believe kindness can change lives. Years later, on a bright afternoon filled with sunlight, Arman stood in front of a classroom as a newly graduated teacher while Nara sat proudly in the front row. Seraphina watched from the back of the room, her eyes quietly shining. In that moment she understood something that surprised even her. Helping Arman had not just changed his life. It had changed hers too. Before the story ends, here is a special request. Comment below with the word kindness if you believe small acts of compassion can create life-changing miracles. Because sometimes the most powerful love stories are not written in luxury or fame. They begin in simple places, in cafes filled with daylight, in the patience of a single father, and in the quiet decision of one person who chooses to care. And if this story moved you even a little, please engage with the video, like it, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Whisper Tales 3 so more heartfelt stories can continue to inspire the world.